I do see parents who are really helicopter parents. When we have online classes, the parents are just walking behind the child. I say, why don't you take a chair and join your child and listen into the class together, right? Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Teacher Grace, and today we are here to find out a little bit more about teacher. This is Miss Gaya.
I'm Teacher Gaya. I have around 20 years of experience. I teach primary levels 1 to 6, secondary school, all the Sec 4 levels, as well as IT students.
How do you even start teaching in the first place?
Like most teachers in Singapore, I started doing tuition as a part-time. Even when I went for other jobs, I've done a whole bunch of things. My mind was always on teaching. I missed the children. I wanted to be back in the classroom. Then I finally realized it was my passion, and I decided to concentrate on it wholesale.
That's nice. So how has your teaching evolved over the years?
Well, I used to teach a range of subjects, and I used to also teach quite diverse range of ages. Now I only focus on teaching English, and I also really enjoy teaching the younger children more, like the primary school children. Of course, I enjoy my interactions with my older students, like my secondary school students and the IT students, but it feels really fulfilling to set the foundations for the primary school students. Back to your question, I think there's much more use of technology now than when I started. That time everything was just paper and pencil.
Pen and paper,
yes, even
chalkboard and markers.
yes, and we couldn't even check the meanings of the words on our little Nokia phones when I first started.
And now it's like just Google it.
I even tell the students, take out your phones in class and just Google it. I allow them to do that. Yeah,
because it's a life skill after all, right?
Yes, exactly.
Finding solutions when you need them.
Correct, yes. And it's not so static anymore. Last time it was just the flipping of pages, and you can see the students' eyes closing, especially when it's like 6 or 7 p.m. at night.
After school.
Yes, exactly. The moment we see their attention is flagging, we can exit out of something that is static and go on to something that's more multimedia fancy. Immediately brightens them up, it captures their interest, it reawakens them.
What are some of the common questions that parents will always ask you when they see you? Right?
They're not so worried
more
about
chill now.
Yes, definitely.
Chill,
They're more chill. They do seem to be concerned with whether the child is feeling overwhelmed, too stressed.
Mental health awareness.
Yes.
How much is too much to make my child do?
I think the parents are very concerned about
I think
the workload.
after COVID, right, the parents are really more concerned about their child's mental well-being, and I think that's something that is actually very good for our children.
Correct.
Right. I mean, when I first started the center, I was telling them, I do see parents who are really helicopter parents. When we have online classes, the parents are just walking behind the child. We can see the parents pacing, you know.
Yes.
I say, why don't you take a chair and join your child and listen into the class together, right? Yeah. Knowing where the boundaries are, where are the expectations supposed to be, that's something good for the child, you know, in the long run. Do you have any rewarding moments?
I think that the rewarding moments are when I've been the same tutor for students throughout their whole education journey. It feels so nice to send them off to polytechnic.
Yeah, it's like,
junior
wow, you're
college.
grown up, right?
Exactly. And I've had 1 or 2 special occasions where I've had the joy of being with a child from K2. And you know, our relationship grew from there. Then you can see their characters developing, their sense of humor developing.
Yes. So I think I really can understand what Teacher Gaya is talking about, because at Learning Journey, we literally have classes for students from phonics all the way to JC, right?
Correct.
And by the time they are in Sec 1, they are taller than me. After a while, they are botak, they go to NS already.
Correct.
That's why at Learning Journey, usually the same teacher will follow the student all the way, you know, from primary 1 to secondary if the teacher teaches secondary, and literally into JC if we are the same teacher. So that's why we are called Learning Journey. We are there with you the whole journey until you go NS. So what difference do you think it makes to a child being able to start English tuition early?
Actually, I think foundation is very, very important. So basically, when you start from such a young age, say for example K1 or K2, just below primary 1, because by primary 1 they're in larger class sizes, and teachers are not going to baby them as much, even though the government has taken away exams and tests for the younger levels. It doesn't mean that they are never going to have tests. So when we start as young as K1 and K2, the child is already prepped to understand that these things are accepted of him Not that they are in this like playful mood all the way the 2 years and suddenly bam, in primary 1 I must write long sentences. What are even long sentences? Some of them do not know. They don't know how to form a cohesive story.
Comma, full stop, don't know put where.
Yes, exactly. Punctuation is out the window. Yeah. Forming good habits and setting a good foundation for them is going to hold them throughout their whole education career, in a way to speak. And it also instills confidence in them. The earlier we started with the students, we could see a marked confidence in the students. They spoke clearer, they spoke up, they were willing to ask questions, they didn't falter as much. So I really encourage getting them to set the foundation as early as possible.
Our main language used in school is English.
Yeah.
So English does affect things like your science, your math, your understanding of the questions, right? Whether you can understand the question correctly in order to apply the correct formula and things like that. So I think English is very important. I think I agree with this because for parents who are not thinking about K1, K2 so young, but I think in primary school, if you see that your child is not really doing that well in English, I think it's good to intervene early because we do see some children coming to us in secondary school.
Yeah.
And even at Sec 1, I can see, their punctuation is everywhere, subject, verb don't agree, spelling is in a mess, and then you want to fix that at Sec 1. I think the gap is going to be very far. Teacher Gaya, what are some tips that you can give to parents and students?
In terms of tips for exams or to prep, whether it's the parents prepping the kids or the kids are prepping themselves, number one is to remain calm, practice as much as possible. Whether you're doing past year exam papers or you're doing assessment books, you must practice. Last time, I just used to say,
Oh, no, if you read, you're going to be fine.
I find that no longer, I've had students who read extensively and yet they cannot spell, they cannot do punctuation. You have to read smart. Perhaps they could switch to more current affairs related articles. Usually they are written very well.
Clear.
Yes, and in the kind of format that we expect you to write. You're reading certain types of comic style books. That's where the dangers come in. You might be reading a lot, but it's not benefiting your language growth.
Maybe a tip for parents. I feel that being there and showing your child that you're there is very important. Something that I do as a parent for my children right before exams, I actually buy them junk food and bubble tea, to be honest. I know too much of it is not good, but they kind of feel happy that their parents are like supporting them to assure them of their self-worth. I think that is a very positive motivation for them. So maybe you can share with us, how do you unwind after reading atrocious handwritings and essays?
Okay, so I spend hours talking to the children. So when I want to unwind, I don't like to talk to anyone. Which causes a bit of a problem.
Your bandwidth is done. I mean, your quota for the day is done, right? So tired already.
Yeah, you can get this sense of frustration from family and friends because they've been waiting the whole day to talk to me.
You.
Yes. But to answer your question, my guilty pleasure is to watch Chinese dramas and Korean dramas.
Yay.
I'm totally addicted. And my family members get quite frustrated. They're like, are you okay? Why are you always watching other languages rather than your own? I said, no, everything is good. Yes, I like period dramas as well.
That's very nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and thank you, Teacher Gaya, for being on air with us. Hope everyone would have some takeaways and that parents will understand that it's good to start prepping early for your child's long journey ahead.